The high-value woman, 10 essential traits that create irresistible attraction. A thought-provoking paradox is unfolding in modern society. While women are increasingly successful economically and socially, the rate of singlehood has skyrocketed in an unprecedented way. According to recent studies, nearly 40% of women aged 25 to 40 in major cities are living single, and this number continues to rise. Simultaneously, satisfaction levels in romantic relationships have dropped to their lowest point in 50 years. This raises a fundamental question: why do exceptional women successful in their careers, financially independent, well-educated struggle with building and maintaining quality romantic relationships? The answer lies in the fact that we are pursuing the wrong goals. Modern society has created a series of misconceptions about what constitutes real attraction. So what is a high-value woman really? This concept is not based on appearance, assets, or social achievements. Instead, it stems from an inner energy, a complex combination of autonomy, intelligence, integrity, and the ability to connect deeply with others. The 10 characteristics we will explore are not tricks to win someone's heart, but core qualities that make up a complete and attractive human being. 1. Independence and autonomy. Knowing how to become the center of your own universe in the universe of love. There are women like planets orbiting around someone else, needing light from outside to shine. And there are those like stars creating their own light, having gravity to attract other things to orbit around them. This difference doesn't lie in bank accounts or diplomas, but in something much more subtle: how they construct their psychology. True independence begins with a fundamental realization: you are already complete even before anyone loves you. This sounds simple but is extremely difficult to implement. From childhood, we are taught that happiness comes from finding the right person. We grow up with fairy tales about princesses rescued by princes, about soulmates, about love as the ultimate destination of life. However, the painful reality is, the most attractive women are not those who need to be rescued. They are those who have rescued themselves from boredom, from lack of purpose, from the fear of being alone. They have transformed loneliness into independence, fear into strength. Observe the women that men truly respect, not just temporarily desire but respect long-term. They have one common trait: none of them places any man at the center of their universe. They have their own lives, their own passions, their own vision. When they love someone, they invite that person into their life, rather than moving their entire existence to revolve around that person. This leads to a dangerous psychological phenomenon that Carljung called the half-person syndrome, when someone believes they are only half a person until they find their other half. This creates a harmful search motivation. Instead of developing themselves into a complete individual, they seek someone to make them whole. The result? A relationship based on deficiency rather than abundance. 2 incomplete people trying to piece together into one, creating dependency instead of love, bondage instead of freedom of choice. Men may initially be attracted to being needed. Their protective instinct is activated when they meet a girl who seemingly cannot live without them. But attraction is only the beginning. To maintain long-term love, they need a companion, not a dependent. This brings us to a harsh psychological law: people only respect what they cannot completely possess. When you place your entire being in someone's hands, you inadvertently devalue yourself. You become guaranteed instead of treasured. From this emerges one of love's greatest paradoxes: those who don't need love to feel complete often attract love the most, while those who are hungry for love often push it away. Why? Because neediness creates pressure, and pressure is the enemy of naturalness. When someone feels that your happiness depends on them, they will feel burdened. They are no longer free to love, but forced to be responsible for your emotions. Conversely, when you have a full life, your choice to share it with someone becomes a gift, not a burden. Conscious choice is always more valuable than unconscious dependency. Think about the people you admire most in life. What do they have in common? They all have a solid center. They don't need anyone else to define their worth. When they love, it's a choice, not a necessity. Therefore, to become a truly independent woman, you need to build what I call a personal solar system, a complete life system with you at the center. This starts with having your own interests and passions, things that make you feel alive that have nothing to do with whether or not you have a boyfriend. It could be writing, photography, business, social activities, or anything that makes you feel purposeful. Next is a diverse network of relationships, friends, family, colleagues, community. When you have multiple sources of social connection, you don't put pressure on one person to meet all your emotional needs. Most importantly, learn to be comfortable with solitude. Not isolation or becoming unapproachable, but the ability to enjoy time with yourself without feeling anxious or empty. When you're not afraid of being alone, you'll never accept a bad relationship just because you fear loneliness. Finally, develop a long-term vision for your life goals and dreams you'll pursue regardless of whether anyone is by your side. When you have a mission greater than seeking love, love will naturally be attracted to your energy. 2. Intelligence and critical thinking, the power of minds that cannot be bought. While independence creates a solid foundation for personal attraction, intelligence and critical thinking ability are the light that highlights and deepens that attraction. In an era where any information can be looked up within 3 seconds, the concept of intelligence needs to be completely redefined. We are living in a crisis of information overload but wisdom scarcity. Everyone can access the same sources of knowledge, but not everyone knows how to transform information into understanding, understanding into wisdom. What distinguishes an attractively intelligent woman from a walking information repository doesn't lie in the amount of knowledge they possess, but in how they use intelligence as a tool for connection. They don't use knowledge to show off or overwhelm, but to create stimulating conversations and deep connections. There's a fundamental difference between being smart to impress and being smart to connect. The first type often makes others feel interrogated or judged. The second type makes them feel encouraged to explore their own deeper thoughts. Attractively intelligent women understand that the purpose of intelligence is not to prove they're the smartest in the room, but to create meaningful shared experiences. They use knowledge as a bridge, not as a barrier. This is where the art of asking questions becomes their secret weapon. The most intelligent woman is not the one with the most answers, but the one who knows how to ask questions that make others think in ways they've never thought before. This is a skill that no university teaches, but it determines the difference between a boring conversation and one that changes both people. Instead of saying "I know a lot about psychology," try asking "Have you ever noticed what influences the decisions you make without realizing it?" This question not only demonstrates intelligence but also invites the other person into an exploration of themselves. There's a powerful psychological law: people love the feeling of being discovered about themselves. When you ask questions that make someone dig deep into their own thoughts, you give them a valuable experience, the opportunity to understand themselves better. The best questions often start with why, how, or what. They open space for thinking rather than just demanding information. Why did you choose this field? Is better than what do you do? What makes you feel most alive? Is better than what are your hobbies? The secret of questioning also lies in knowing how to ask appropriate follow-up questions. Instead of switching to another topic, dig deeper. That sounds really interesting. How did you discover that, or did that change how you view life? Contrary to the tendency to show off that many people have, the attraction of humility in intelligence has an irresistible power. In a world where everyone tries to prove they're the smartest, honestly saying "I don't know, could you share more?" becomes a revolutionary act. It shows confidence. Only truly confident people dare to admit their limitations. But this is humility with power, acknowledging that you don't know everything, but you're eager to learn. This creates a safe space for the other person to share knowledge without fear of being judged. The most intelligent people are often those who ask the most questions. They understand that everyone has a unique story, a different perspective, a piece of the big picture they haven't seen yet. Humility in intelligence is also shown by being able to change one's viewpoint when presented with convincing evidence. I hadn't thought about it from that angle. Thank you for sharing. Doesn't make you weak but makes you more respectable. Carljung divided psychological functions into many types, but the two most important in this context are thinking and feeling. Women with lasting attraction are not completely dominated by either, but know how to use both logic and intuition depending on the situation. They can analyze a problem sharply when necessary, but also know when to trust their gut feeling. They can argue about politics logically, but also understand why someone might have strong emotions about an issue even though they can't explain it with reason. This balance creates an attractively unpredictable quality. Not fickleness or contradiction, but the ability to surprise in positive ways. Sometimes they come up with unexpected but completely logical conclusions, making others think, why didn't I think of that? These women can say, I feel something's not right with this plan, and then explain why that feeling has a logical basis. They combine intuition with analysis, creating decisions that are both intelligent and emotionally deep. Finally, when arguments become deep dialogue, an intelligent woman will handle disagreements as an opportunity to understand more deeply rather than a battle to be won. I understand your perspective, and I have a slightly different view. This sentence is more powerful than you think. It acknowledges the other person's viewpoint before presenting your own, avoiding triggering defensive mechanisms. The intelligent woman knows that the goal of argument is not to crush the opponent with logic, but to get closer to the truth together. They can change their viewpoint when presented with convincing evidence, and this doesn't make them weak but makes them more respectable. You just completely changed how I see this issue may be one of the most seductive sentences a woman can say. It shows openness, ability to learn, and respect for the other person's intelligence. Finally, they understand that true intelligence is not about always being right, but about always learning. And perhaps that's the most attractive thing, a mind that's always growing, always curious, always ready to be surprised by the world. 3. Integrity and reliability. When words become the compass, if intelligence creates initial attraction, then integrity and reliability are the factors that determine whether a relationship can develop long-term. We are living in the era of flexible truth, when truth becomes bendable, when people can create their own version of reality through social media. In this context, a woman who says what she thinks and does what she says becomes as rare as diamonds. Integrity is not just about not lying. It's about living a unified life when your public image matches your real self, when your actions align with the values you proclaim. This is the kind of trustworthiness that cannot be bought, cannot be faked, and once lost is almost impossible to regain. The human brain is designed to look for patterns and predict behavior. This is a basic survival mechanism. We need to know who can be trusted and who cannot. When someone's words and actions are consistent, the brain feels safe and can relax. When there's contradiction, alarm bells start ringing. In the modern world, inconsistency has become normal. People say one thing and do another, make promises then forget, declare values then violate them when convenient. This is why a truly reliable woman becomes a rare and extremely attractive phenomenon. To understand this importance, consider the psychology of harmless lies. I'm on my way when actually still applying makeup. I'm fine when clearly not fine. I'll call back later but never calling. These small lies seem harmless, but they have terrible destructive power on trust. There's a psychological phenomenon called trust erosion. Like water dripping can pierce stone, small inconsistencies can destroy the foundation of a relationship. Each small lie is a crack in the wall of trust. Notably, major mistakes are sometimes forgiven more easily than small lies. Major mistakes can be seen as human error, moments of weakness, or poor judgment. Small lies reveal character, and character is the most fundamental thing in a person. When someone realizes you're willing to be dishonest about small things for your convenience, they'll wonder, if she can lie about this, what about more important things? Doubt, once planted, will grow and flourish in every subsequent interaction. Trustworthiness is built drop by drop but can be destroyed in a moment. Each time you keep your word, even in small matters, you're depositing money into the trust account. Each time you break a promise, you're withdrawing money. And unlike real money, trust is very hard to earn back once lost. To visualize this better, imagine trust as a bank account. Each time you do what you say, you deposit money into this account. Each time you break a promise, you withdraw money. The problem is that depositing money is very slow and withdrawing money can happen instantly. It takes months to build a reliable reputation, but only a moment to destroy it. And unlike money, trust is very hard to earn back once lost. People may forgive, but they will always remember. This is why the most trustworthy women always promise little and deliver much. Instead of making big promises to impress, they make commitments they're certain they can exceed. When expectations are set realistically and results exceed expectations, trust is strongly reinforced. They understand that reputation is built through thousands of small decisions. Arriving on time for appointments. Calling when promised. Remembering important details. Admitting when they don't know instead of making things up. These small actions accumulate into an overall image of someone dependable. Carljung had a profound concept about shadow work, confronting aspects of ourselves that we don't want to acknowledge. These aren't necessarily bad things, but emotions, thoughts, or characteristics that we consider unacceptable. A person with true integrity has done this shadow work. They know who they are, including their flaws and contradictions. They don't need to fake a perfect image because they're comfortable with their humanity. This creates an interesting paradox. Acknowledging flaws actually increases attraction. When someone can say I was wrong about this or I'm not very good at that area, they demonstrate a kind of strength that very few people have the strength to accept vulnerability. Controlled vulnerability is completely different from constant complaining. This doesn't mean sharing all problems or constantly seeking comfort. It's about being honest about difficulties and growth in ways that create trust rather than pity. When someone sees you can admit mistakes while maintaining dignity, they feel safe to also show their own authenticity. This is how real intimacy is built, not through fake perfection, but through deep genuineness. Therefore, when you always do the right thing even when no one is watching, you develop a kind of inner compass that everyone can sense. There's something about the presence of people with strong moral centers that immediately makes others feel comfortable. They don't need to constantly prove themselves because their actions speak everything. They don't need to defend their character because it's clear in every small choice they make. From how they treat service staff to how they handle mistakes, their integrity shines through. This creates a ripple effect in relationships. When you are always honest and reliable, you allow others to also become authentic. You create a safe space for real connection instead of performance. Finally, integrity is not about perfection. It's about consistency between values and actions, between the inner world and outer behavior. And in a world full of masks and filters, this integrity becomes irresistible. For empathy and emotional intelligence, the language that souls understand, while integrity builds the foundation of trust, empathy and emotional intelligence are the bridge that helps two souls truly meet. We are living in a painful paradox. Never before have humans been so technically connected to each other, but also never before have they felt so emotionally lonely. Thousands of messages every day, hundreds of video calls, but how many conversations actually touch the soul? In the world of emoticons and reactions, we are gradually forgetting the real language of emotions. We know how to react to a post but don't know how to respond to a friend's pain. We can follow thousands of people but no one really sees us. This is precisely why a woman with high emotional intelligence becomes extremely valuable. She is like an oasis in the desert of fake connections, a place where people can find true understanding, genuine empathy, and the feeling of being completely seen. Emotional intelligence is not a soft skill that you can have or not have. In a world where machines are getting smarter, the ability to understand and connect with human emotions has become a real superpower. It's the last thing technology cannot replace. The skill of reading people begins with the ability to recognize what is not being said. This is not mystical ability or mind reading, but a skill of subtle observation that has been honed through thousands of hours of paying attention to human behavior. A person with high emotional intelligence can sense changes in someone's energy before they recognize it themselves. They notice when someone forces a smile, when their voice is slightly tense, when their body language doesn't match their words. They recognize subtle signs that others miss. But more importantly, they know what to do with this information. Instead of confronting directly, "You seem sad," they create space for that person to share if they want to. They can skillfully adjust their own energy to make the other person more comfortable. "I notice you seem a bit different today, is there anything I can help with?" This sentence is more powerful than "What's wrong with you?" because it acknowledges the change without pressuring the person to explain. They understand that sometimes what people need is not answers, but to feel that someone cares enough to notice. This high-quality attention undistracted, non-judgmental, completely present has become a rare gift in our era. From the ability to read and understand, we come to the power of holding space, the ability to be present with someone's pain or difficulty without trying to fix or change it. This is one of the most precious gifts one person can give to another. In our culture, we are trained to always have solutions. When someone shares a problem, the immediate reaction is to give advice, suggest fixes, or share similar experiences to relate. But sometimes what people need is not solutions, they need to be heard. That sounds really challenging, can be more powerful than a page of advice. It validates their difficulty and conveys that you trust they can handle the situation. It shows respect for their autonomy rather than assuming they need to be rescued. Holding space requires remarkable emotional strength. You must be comfortable with discomfort, okay with not having answers, and strong enough to sit with someone's pain without absorbing it into yourself. When someone feels held this way, not judged, not pressured to change, simply accepted completely in their current state, they often find the strength to heal themselves. Your accepting presence becomes the catalyst for their own healing process. There's an irony in male psychology: they crave being understood but fear being truly seen. When a woman can see through the layers of masks and defenses to touch the real person underneath, it's simultaneously liberating and frightening. Liberating because finally someone understands. Frightening because it means giving up control and admitting needs. Jung spoke about anima, the feminine aspect in male psychology that includes qualities like empathy, intuition, emotional sensitivity. Social conditioning often forces men to suppress this, creating inner conflict and emotional numbness. A woman with high emotional intelligence can serve as a guide to help men reconnect with their anima. Not through preaching or forcing, but through demonstrating emotional intelligence and creating safe space for vulnerability. When a man feels safe to share his deepest thoughts and feelings without being judged or fixed, it can be a life-changing experience. He learns to integrate his emotional side instead of fighting against it. Science shows that we have mirror neurons that automatically mimic the emotional states of those around us. This means your emotional state literally affects everyone you interact with. A woman with well-developed emotional intelligence understands this and takes responsibility for the energy she brings into interactions. She can read the room and adjust accordingly, matching excitement when appropriate, bringing calm when things heat up, offering warmth when people feel isolated. This is not manipulation, it's genuine care for others' well-being and understanding that we're all connected. When you make others feel good about themselves, it creates positive feedback loops that benefit everyone. People with high emotional intelligence can modulate their emotional intensity to match what the situation needs. They can be generous with their energy when someone needs lifting up, or calm and steady when someone needs stability. Finally, emotional intelligence is about understanding that behind every behavior is a human being with needs, fears, hopes, and dreams. When you can see and respond to the humanity in others, you become irresistible, not because of what you take, but because of what you give. 5 clear goals and ambitions. when passion becomes a magnetic field. If emotional intelligence helps you connect deeply with others, then having clear goals and ambitions creates a completely different kind of magnetic attraction. There's a secret that few dare to admit: the most attractive women are often the busiest ones. Not busy with meaningless tasks to fill empty time, but busy with things that truly matter to them. They have their own lives, their own worlds, their own battles, and this is precisely what makes them irresistible. Why is this so? The answer lies in a fundamental psychological law: humans are attracted to what they cannot completely possess. When a woman has a clear purpose in life, she radiates a special kind of energy, the energy of someone who is going somewhere, becoming someone, building something meaningful. This is not about playing hard to get or deliberately creating distance. This is about having a life rich enough that you don't need anyone else to complete it. When your time and attention have real value because you're investing them in meaningful things, your choice to spend them on someone becomes a true honor. The scarcity principle applies not only in economics but also in love. What is easily available is often considered less valuable. What requires effort to achieve is treasured. A woman who is always available may create initial security, but will gradually lack excitement. Someone with a full life creates the kind of positive challenge that human instinct craves. There's a fascinating psychological phenomenon called preselection. This is when someone is clearly being chosen by life to do important things. They're not struggling to find meaning, they've found it and are living it every day. This creates a special aura that cannot be faked. These people don't need external validation because they've found validation from their work, mission, and impact. They're not hungry for attention because they're already nourished by their own passion. Jung described the hero's journey as the process of overcoming challenges to achieve something greater than oneself. Those on this journey, whether building a business, creating art, or changing their community, carry within them a special inner fire. This fire has magnetic properties. It attracts not just because it's bright, but because it's warm. People want to come close to be warmed by that passion, to be inspired by that clarity, to be uplifted by that energy. There's an uncomfortable truth that few want to acknowledge: humans, especially men, are born to enjoy the chase. Not in a violent sense, but in the sense that they like the feeling of having to work to achieve something valuable. This doesn't mean women should be deliberately difficult or play cat and mouse games. Instead, when you have a truly rich life, you naturally create positive challenge. Someone must be interesting enough, valuable enough to become part of that wonderful life. Hard to earn reward is not about being difficult but about having standards. When you know your worth, not in an arrogant way but in a self-aware way, you won't lower your value to fit someone. You'll wait for someone worthy of what you bring. The difference between being busy to avoid and being purposefully busy is crucial. Being busy to avoid is often a way to not face emotions or lack of direction. Being purposefully busy comes from knowing exactly what you want to create in this world. True ambition is not about money or fame. It's about having a vision larger than yourself and the persistence to turn that vision into reality. When a woman has this kind of ambition, she becomes a magnetic field, attracting others who also want to live meaningful lives. This is why the most powerful couples are often two people who both have successful careers and clear goals. They don't compete with each other but together create something greater. They understand that the best love is not about losing yourself in someone else, but about becoming the best version of yourself when together. The woman with clear ambitions also creates the feeling of building the future together instead of just enjoying the present. Men like the feeling of being needed, but not in a rescue way but in a contributing to something meaningful way. When you have big goals, you need partners, not dependents. You need someone who can stand beside you in challenges, celebrate with you in success, and dream with you about even greater things. However, the biggest challenge for modern women is how to balance ambition and love. How to be ambitious without becoming cold. How to pursue dreams without forgetting love. How to be strong yet gentle. The answer lies in understanding that this is not an either/or choice. You don't have to choose between career and love, between ambition and family. Instead, you can create a life where all these things coexist and nourish each other. A healthy relationship will support your ambitions, not hinder them. A true partner will want to see you succeed, will be proud of your achievements, will dream with you about a greater future. At the same time, ambition pursued with balance will enrich the relationship. When you have a meaningfully full life outside the relationship, you bring home interesting stories, positive energy, and a sense of accomplishment. You don't put all the pressure on your partner to bring you happiness. The secret is learning to compartmentalize, consciously dividing time and energy. When working, focus completely on work. When with your loved one, be completely present with them. The quality of attention matters more than the quantity of time. 6. Effective communication skills. Turning conflict into connection while having clear goals helps you attract the right person. Effective communication skills are what determine whether that relationship can develop sustainably. This is perhaps the hardest truth to accept about relationships. Most arguments are not really about the issue being discussed. The real root of these arguments lies in who gets to be right, who gets respect, who has a voice in the relationship. Everyone carries within them an ego, the psychological part that wants to be recognized, valued, validated, that they matter. When two egos clash, something strange happens. The conversation quickly shifts from solving the actual problem to protecting self-image. He's no longer arguing about who should do the dishes, but fighting to prove he's not the careless type. She's no longer talking about being late, but defending her reputation as a responsible person. Women with high communication skills understand this at an intuitive level. They recognize when a conversation is escalating from content to emotions, and they have the skills to de-escalate without anyone losing face. You're right about that, and I also have a different perspective to share. This sentence has tremendous power. It acknowledges the other person's viewpoint before presenting your own, avoiding triggering defensive mechanisms. It signals that this is not a battle but an exploration. How to frame the conversation becomes important here. There's hidden power in every conversation. Whoever sets the frame for the discussion usually guides its direction. Framing is not manipulation, it's presenting information in a constructive and effective way. Instead of saying "you always forget what I tell you," try "I want to find a way for things important to me to be remembered better." Instead of "you're wrong," try "I have a different view on this issue." The difference is not just in words but in intention. The first way creates defensiveness and blame. The second way creates cooperation and problem solving. Same content, but completely different outcomes. Questions have more power than statements because they invite participation rather than impose conclusions. "What do you think would work best?" creates a sense of collaboration. "We should do it this way" might cause resistance. Good communicators also know how to use "we" instead of "you/I." "How can we solve this problem?" creates team spirit. "Why did you do that?" creates confrontation. In the age of lightning speed conversations, the ability to pause has become a superpower. Knowing when to speak, when to be silent, when to go deeper into an issue and when to gently redirect are subtle skills that determine conversation success. Silence can be the most powerful tool in communication. After asking a deep question, don't rush to fill the silence. Give the other person time to think and process. The most honest and profound responses often come from these silent moments. Do you need time to think about that? This simple question shows respect for the other person's thought process and removes pressure to give an immediate answer. The rhythm of conversation is as important as content. Sometimes you need to speed up to create momentum, sometimes slow down to ensure everyone keeps up. Sometimes you need to stop completely to process emotions before continuing. State adjustment is the ability to read the energy in the room and adjust your expression accordingly. This is not about faking personality, but about bringing the energy that the situation needs. When someone is excited, you can match that excitement to create connection. When someone is stressed, you can bring calm to balance. When someone is sad, you can adjust to an appropriate energy level so they don't feel overwhelmed. This requires high awareness of both your own emotions and others. You need to be flexible enough to change frequency while maintaining core authenticity. For example, if you're naturally high energy but talking to someone going through difficulties, you can adjust down, speak slower, softer, with fewer gestures to create safe space for them. Finally, handling conflict skillfully means good communicators see conflict as an opportunity to understand more deeply, not as a battle to be won. They're curious about the other person's perspective instead of just focusing on defending their own. I want to understand why this is so important to you. Open space for the other person to explain the motivations and emotions behind their viewpoint. This often leads to unexpected discoveries and solutions neither had thought of. They also know how to separate the person from the problem. Instead of attacking character, "You're so selfish," they focus on specific behavior. "This action made me feel unvalued." This allows the other person to change behavior without having to defend identity. Finally, they always try to end conflict with connection, not victory. "I really appreciate that we could talk about this," or "I feel I understand you better after this conversation," helps strengthen the relationship instead of leaving wounds. 7. Self-care. When self-love becomes a magnetic field while communication skills help you connect with others, self-care is the foundation that gives you enough energy and strength for those connections. There's something incredibly attractive about a woman who has discipline with herself. Not about having a perfect body or luxurious lifestyle habits, but about showing respect for herself through daily actions. When someone sees you wake up early to exercise despite being tired, eat healthily despite stress, maintain skincare routines despite being busy, they understand that you will also treat a relationship with the same level of care and persistence. How you do anything reflects how you do everything. This is not just a nice saying but a profound psychological principle. If someone is careless with their health, they're likely to be careless with promises. If they lack consistency with personal goals, they may lack consistency with emotions and commitments. But the most attractive thing is not external discipline, but the quiet confidence it brings. Someone who knows how to care for themselves radiates the energy of someone who knows their worth and isn't afraid to invest in it. When around someone with healthy habits, we naturally tend to want to upgrade ourselves. This is not pressure or judgment, but natural inspiration. The energy of those who know how to care for themselves has a positively contagious quality. This creates a positive cycle in relationships. Instead of pulling each other down with bad habits, both people lift each other up. They become better versions of themselves when together. Self-care is not selfish, it's self-respect. And self-respect is attractive because it signals that you understand your worth and expect others to treat you accordingly. When you invest in your physical, mental, and emotional health, you have more to give. You have energy to love, patience to listen, strength to support. You don't become someone who drains energy but someone who charges others. Physical health directly affects mental clarity and emotional stability. When you feel good in your body, you show up differently in relationships. You have more energy to give, more patience to handle conflict, more confidence to show vulnerability. Embodied presence. When body language matches inner state, creates authentic attraction. This kind of presence cannot be faked. It comes from truly caring for yourself at every level. When you exercise regularly, your body produces endorphins, natural happiness hormones. When you eat healthily, your brain functions more efficiently. When you get enough sleep, you can regulate emotions better. All of these contribute to creating a more attractive version of yourself. Moreover, how you treat yourself sends a powerful message about what you believe you deserve. When you invest time and money in health, education, and personal development, you're declaring, "I have value and I deserve investment." This doesn't mean you need to spend lavishly or pursue perfection. It's about being conscious in daily choices. Choosing healthy meals over fast food. Choosing early sleep over late night movies. Choosing to read books over endless social media scrolling. Each small choice accumulates into a larger story about how you value yourself. And that story is read by others, even when they're not conscious of it. The important thing is that true self-care is not about pursuing perfection but about seeking sustainable balance. It's about creating habits you can maintain long-term, not extreme measures you'll abandon after a few weeks. Instead of exercising 2 hours one day a week then not exercising at all, exercise 30 minutes every day. Instead of extreme dieting then overeating, create sustainable healthy eating habits. Instead of meditating 2 hours once then forgetting, meditate 10 minutes every morning. Consistency matters more than intensity. A small habit maintained daily will create bigger results than a large effort made occasionally. Balance also means knowing when to rest. Sometimes self-care is eating pizza and watching movies, not salad and yoga. The important thing is that these choices are made consciously, not from bad habits or lack of attention. Finally, the best self-care is listening to your body and mind. Knowing when you need rest, when you need challenge, when you need social connection, when you need alone time. This subtle attunement to your real needs creates a kind of self-care ability that cannot be learned from any book. 8. Respect and courtesy, the silent power of elegance. While self-care shows how you treat yourself, respect and courtesy reveal how you treat the world around you. There's a truth few want to admit: you can know someone's true character by how they treat unimportant people in society. How a woman talks to taxi drivers, service staff, or security guards reveals more about her real character than how she dresses or speaks. True class cannot be bought with money. It doesn't lie in designer handbags or expensive restaurants. True class lies in how a person treats everyone around them with the same basic level of respect, regardless of what benefit they might bring. Women with true class understand one thing: everyone has basic human dignity, and how you acknowledge or deny that dignity says a lot about you. When she thanks the bus driver, when she's patient with new sales staff, when she's polite to someone having a bad day, she's demonstrating a kind of power that cannot be faked. This creates an amazing ripple effect. Those who witness this kindness, especially men observing her, realize this is the kind of person they want to be with when life gets difficult. They get a glimpse of how she'll treat their children, their aging parents, or themselves when they're no longer at their peak. Grace under pressure is the ultimate measure. Anyone can be kind when everything goes smoothly. But true character is revealed when things get difficult. How you handle stress, disappointment, and pressure shows others what they can expect from you long term. Grace under pressure doesn't mean never losing composure or being perfect. It's about having the ability to return to center quickly, take responsibility when wrong, and handle difficulties without hurting innocent people around. When her flight is delayed and she feels frustrated, she doesn't yell at airline staff people who have no fault in the situation. When the restaurant serves the wrong dish, she points out the error politely instead of making a scene. When someone cuts in traffic, she may be annoyed but doesn't let it affect her whole day. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine when it's not. This is about having enough inner control to not let your emotions become other people's problems. This is about understanding that how you react to difficulties affects not just you but everyone around you. There's a powerful psychological skill that very few people master: the ability not to take personally other people's negative behavior. This doesn't mean allowing people to treat you poorly, but understanding that others' behavior often reflects their inner state more than anything about you. When someone is rude to her, the woman with class doesn't automatically assume she did something wrong. Instead, she recognizes that person might be having a bad day, dealing with stress, or never been taught how to interact politely. She doesn't absorb their negativity into herself. This doesn't mean she's naive or allows people to walk over her. She still sets boundaries and protects herself when necessary. But she does it from a position of strength and clarity, not from wounded ego or defensive reaction. I understand you're having a difficult day, but I need you to speak to me respectfully. This sentence shows both empathy and boundaries. It acknowledges the other person's humanity while maintaining her standards. Finally, true kindness is not weakness, it's strength. It takes strength to choose kindness when you could choose revenge. It takes wisdom to know when kindness is appropriate and when firmness is necessary. Women with class understand that every interaction is an opportunity to make someone's day better or worse. They consistently choose the positive direction. This is not about people pleasing, it's about understanding the impact we have on each other and taking responsibility for the energy we bring into the world. When she compliments good service, when she's patient with elderly people struggling with technology, when she has brief conversations with people who seem lonely, she's creating positive ripples that extend far beyond the present moment. Men observe these behaviors and recognize this is the kind of person they want in their lives. They see evidence that she'll bring out the best in them, treat their children with kindness, and create positive environments for families. True class shows through the smallest details. How she waits her turn in conversation instead of interrupting. How she puts away her phone when someone is talking to her. How she remembers names and small details about people she meets. How she expresses gratitude specifically and genuinely. These behaviors are not about old-fashioned rules or etiquette. They're about understanding that small acts of care and respect create the foundation for trust and connection. They signal that she sees and values others as complete human beings, not just supporting characters in her story. In an increasingly divided and confrontational world, the ability to treat everyone with basic human dignity becomes increasingly rare and valuable. It stands out like a lighthouse of hope in a sea of incivility. Finally, true elegance is not about perfect manners or social polish. It's about having a heart big enough to care about the impact you have on others, and the discipline to always act from a place of love rather than fear or selfishness. 9. Support and encouragement. The magic of belief. If respect shows how you treat strangers, then support and encouragement show how you nurture close relationships. In life, there are few things more powerful than having someone truly believe in your abilities. Not blind support or empty praise, but genuine, deep belief in the best version you could become. Women who have the ability to see and nurture potential in others possess a special kind of power. They can see through layers of self-doubt, fear, and past failures to see the seed of greatness lying dormant inside. This is not about ignoring reality or pretending everyone is perfect. This is about having the vision to see the gap between where someone is and where they could go, and having the heart to support that journey. I believe you can do this. These simple words can change the trajectory of an entire life. When someone you respect and care about expresses genuine belief in your abilities, it creates an inner shift. Suddenly, dreams that once seemed impossible become possible. Risks that once seemed frightening become manageable. Psychology has proven the Pygmalion effect, the phenomenon where expectations can actually shape reality. When teachers expect students to perform well, students often exceed expectations. When coaches believe in athletes' potential, performance improves significantly. The same principle applies in relationships. When a woman truly expects great things from her partner, she unconsciously behaves in ways that encourage those great things to emerge. She notices and celebrates small improvements. She creates environments conducive to growth. She responds to failures with encouragement rather than criticism. But there's a delicate balance here. Support must come without strings attached. As soon as it becomes a manipulation tool, I believed in you and you still failed, it loses its magic and becomes a source of pressure and guilt. True support means holding the vision of someone's potential while completely accepting them exactly as they are right now. It's about loving the journey, not just the destination. This leads to creating safe space for greatness. Most people have experienced enough criticism and doubt in their lives. Their inner critics are already loud enough. What they truly crave is someone who sees possibility instead of limitations, opportunities instead of obstacles. Creating safe space for greatness means several things. First, it means listening without judgment when someone shares dreams or fears. It means asking questions that help them explore ideas deeper rather than immediately pointing out problems. What excites you most about that idea? Opens conversation. Have you thought about the challenges? Can dampen enthusiasm? Both questions have their place, but timing and tone are extremely important. It also means celebrating effort, not just results. I see how hard you've been working on this project has more impact than congratulations on succeeding. Recognizing process often means more than recognizing outcomes. True support doesn't create dependency, it creates empowerment. Instead of becoming a crutch someone leans on, you become a springboard that helps them jump higher than they thought possible. This means knowing when to offer help and when to step back. It means asking, do you want me to listen or do you want suggestions, instead of automatically switching to problem-solving mode. It means trusting in the person's wisdom and ability to find solutions. Sometimes the most supportive thing you can do is simply witness someone's struggle without trying to fix it. I'm here with you can be more powerful than a treasure trove of advice. Other times, support means gentle challenge. I know you can handle more than this pushes someone toward their potential. This isn't the you I know calls them back to their higher self. In a culture obsessed with results and achievements, the ability to recognize and celebrate incremental progress becomes a rare gift. Most people know how to celebrate big wins, promotions, graduations, major milestones. Few know how to notice and acknowledge small steps forward. I'm proud of you for persevering when things got difficult validates struggle and persistence. I see how much you've grown in this area acknowledges development that might not be obvious to others. Celebrating the journey also means being present for failures and difficulties. This failure doesn't define you, reminds someone of the bigger picture. What did you learn from this experience? Helps turn failure into wisdom. The ultimate goal of true support is not to create someone who needs you, but someone who chooses you. When someone feels truly supported in becoming their best self, they don't become dependent, they become grateful. They recognize the value of having someone in their life who believes in their abilities and potential. This creates beautiful dynamics where both people inspire each other to reach higher. Instead of relationships that pull people down to the lowest level, it lifts both people to their highest possible versions. You make me want to be a better man. When someone says this, it means you've mastered creating supportive love. You haven't changed them, you've helped them change themselves. 10. Compatibility in life values, the dance of two souls on the same frequency. Finally, even if you possess all 9 traits above, without compatibility in life values, the relationship will still struggle to be sustainable. True compatibility doesn't lie in liking the same pizza or watching the same movies. It lies in much deeper things: how you view life, how you define success, how you deal with challenges, and what you consider most important in life. There can be 2 people completely different in personality, one introverted, one extroverted, one likes adventure, one likes safety, but if they have the same core value system, they can create sustainable and deep relationships. Conversely, 2 people who seem perfect on paper but have fundamentally different views about life will constantly face conflict. This doesn't mean you need to find someone exactly like you. Differences can complement and enrich relationships. But at the deepest level, about morals, about life priorities, about vision for the future, there needs to be basic harmony. These values are often formed very early in life and are very difficult to change. They're like personality DNA, they can be adjusted and developed, but the basic structure usually remains stable. This is why understanding and evaluating value compatibility is most important in building long-term relationships. Everyone has red lines, core values they cannot compromise. The problem is many people don't take time to clearly identify these red lines until it's too late. Views about money are one of the biggest sources of conflict in marriage. Not about who earns more money, but about the basic approach to finances. One person believes in saving and long-term planning, the other believes in living in the present and enjoying. One person sees money as a tool to create security and freedom, the other sees money as a means to experience and express status. Views about family and children are equally important. Whether to have children, how many, how to raise them, the role of grandparents in child care, the importance of family time versus work. These things need to be discussed clearly and early. Attitudes toward work and career can also create tension. One person sees work as passion and identity, the other sees it as a means to have a life. One person is willing to sacrifice family time for ambition, the other considers work-life balance the top priority. Lifestyle views are also important. One person likes simplicity and minimalism, the other needs luxury and complexity. One person considers health and exercise a priority, the other doesn't care about these things. Not every difference is harmful. In fact, some types of differences can make relationships richer and more balanced. An introvert can help an extrovert learn to enjoy quiet and reflection. A cautious person can help an impulsive person think more carefully. An optimist can support a pessimist during difficult times. These differences are called complementary. They create balance and help both people grow. Jung calls this transcendent function when two opposites meet and create something greater than the sum of two parts. However, there are differences that are conflicting. They create constant friction and cannot be reconciled. A person with high professional ethics with someone who considers cheating normal. A person who considers family the number one priority with someone who puts friends and entertainment above everything. A person with big ambitions with someone who completely lacks motivation. The key is learning to distinguish between these two types of differences. Complementary differences create temporary tension but lead to growth. Conflicting differences create constant tension and tend to get worse over time. However, in every long-term relationship, compromise is inevitable. But there's a difference between healthy compromise and self-sacrifice. Healthy compromise is when both people receive something valuable from the adjustment. Self-sacrifice is when one person continually gives up things important to them without receiving anything worthwhile in return. For example, a couple might compromise on where to live by choosing a city where both can develop their careers, even if it's not either's first choice. This is healthy compromise because both benefit. But if one person continually has to give up career dreams to pursue the other's dreams, that's unsustainable sacrifice. The key is ensuring compromise doesn't violate anyone's core values. You can compromise on where to live, but you can't compromise on being honest. You can compromise on how to spend weekends, but you can't compromise on how to treat children. The best compromises are often creative solutions that both people feel excited about, not solutions that both feel dissatisfied with. Jung has a beautiful concept of transcendent function. What happens when two people who have completed individual development processes meet? Instead of losing themselves in the relationship, they create something greater than the sum of two individuals. This happens when two people can maintain their individual identities while contributing to a shared vision. They don't become the same person, they become complementary forces working toward common goals. In this type of relationship, conflict becomes growth opportunity instead of threat to stability. Differences become sources of learning instead of sources of disappointment. Each person challenges the other to become better while providing safe refuge when things get difficult. Psychology develops naturally. Instead of me versus you, it becomes us versus the problem. Instead of competing with each other, they cooperate to create the life both want to live. One of the biggest mistakes in dating is avoiding difficult conversations about values and future plans. People fear that bringing up serious topics will scare potential partners away. But the reality is, if serious conversations scare them, they're probably not the right person. It's better to discover incompatibility early than invest many years in a relationship only to realize later that you want fundamentally different things from life. This doesn't mean interrogating every date or turning every conversation into a job interview. But it means paying attention to clues about values and priorities. Notice how they treat service staff. Listen to how they talk about family, money, work. Observe how they handle stress and disappointment. Ask deep questions. What's most important to you in life? How do you define success? What would your ideal family look like? How do you handle conflict in relationships? Most importantly, be honest about your own values and expectations. Don't pretend to agree with things you really don't agree with, hoping to change their mind later. Don't hide important aspects of personality or life goals because you think they are too complicated. After exploring these 10 characteristics, there's a fundamental mindset shift every woman needs to make, from focusing on how to be loved to how to become naturally lovable. This difference is not just about words, it's revolutionary. When you focus on being loved, you put power in someone else's hands. Your success depends on their reaction, their acceptance, their decision. You become an actor in your own life's play, always performing for an audience. When you focus on becoming lovable, you reclaim your power. Success is no longer measured by whether someone loves you, but by whether you become the best version of yourself. You become the director of your own life. This is not about becoming selfish or not caring about others. This is about understanding that true love, the kind that's sustainable, deep, and transformative, can only come when you have something valuable to offer. And the most valuable thing you can offer is your authentic, developed, and loving self. You attract what you are, not what you want. Might sound like an old cliche, but it's profound truth. Want a successful partner? Become successful. Want a loyal partner? Develop loyalty in every area of life. Want a passionate partner? Nurture passion for your own interests. These traits have something special. They don't just make you more attractive in love but also improve the quality of your entire life. Independence makes you a better leader at work. Emotional intelligence helps you build deeper relationships with family and friends. Integrity creates reputation that opens career opportunities. Effective communication skills make you someone others seek for advice. Moreover, when you demonstrate these qualities, you unconsciously give others permission to elevate their lives. Personal excellence has contagious properties. Your standards become signals of what's possible. Other women see the example and think, I can do this too. Men experience being with someone who has these qualities and raise their expectations accordingly. You contribute to creating a culture where healthy relationships become the norm instead of the exception. In a world full of toxic dynamics and surface connections, you become a lighthouse of what genuine partnership and love can look like. Personal transformation takes time. Some changes can happen quickly. You can start practicing better communication skills tomorrow. Other changes require years. Developing unshakable confidence or deep emotional intelligence is the work of a lifetime. The important thing is to approach this like a marathon, not a sprint. Celebrate small victories. Don't compare your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. Everyone's journey is unique, and your timing is perfect for you. Be patient with the process. Allow yourself to be imperfect while striving to grow. Remember that becoming a high-value woman is not about reaching a destination but about embracing the journey of continuous development. Also recognize that setbacks are normal parts of growth. There will be days you revert to old patterns, when confidence wavers, when you make communication mistakes. These are not signs of failure, these are signs of humanity. The key is quick course correction and continuing forward. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by all 10 areas, choose one trait to focus on this week. Maybe it's practicing vulnerability by sharing something meaningful with a friend. Maybe it's building discipline by keeping one small promise to yourself each day. Maybe it's developing emotional intelligence by truly listening in your next conversation. What matters is not perfection but progress. Not about doing everything right but about doing something different. Each small step in the right direction builds momentum for bigger changes ahead. Create an environment that supports your growth. Surround yourself with people who demonstrate the qualities you want to develop. Read books, take courses, seek mentorship. Investment in personal development is never wasted, it pays dividends in every area of life. Establish small habits that support each trait. To develop independence, spend 30 minutes daily on personal hobbies. To improve emotional intelligence, practice 10 minutes of mindfulness each morning. To build integrity, commit to keeping your word in all small things. There's a truth that needs to be stated clearly: you already deserve love exactly as you are right now. These traits don't make you deserving, they simply help you express the worthiness that already exists. The journey to becoming a high-value woman is really a journey back to yourself. Discovering and developing qualities that were always there, waiting to be discovered. Remembering who you really are beneath layers of conditioning, fears, and self-doubt. Ultimately, the most attractive thing about anyone is their aliveness, the sense that they're engaging with life fully, pursuing what matters, growing continuously, loving deeply. When you commit to becoming the most alive version of yourself, everything else naturally follows. You'll attract love not because you desperately need it, but because you have something beautiful to share. You'll enter relationships from a position of abundance rather than scarcity, of choice rather than need, of joy rather than fear. And that's the foundation for the kind of love every woman deserves: love that sees, celebrates, and nurtures the best in her while accepting all of her. The journey begins with one step. What will your first step be?